How did I start off the fucking last video? I did another take of this, and I don't remember. I had a good start. I had a good intro to it, and I don't remember what it was. I don't know. Whatever. Welcome back, boys. Today we're doing something a little different. All right, you thought that I put like no effort into my videos. Usually just take a pen to a screen, analyze some film, throw it up. Takes me about an hour and a half. I've spent like 4 hours putting this together so far, and this doesn't include the video editing, which is probably going to take me another 2 or 3 hours. I put a solid amount of effort into this video, so round of applause for me. Yeah, we're upgrading. But welcome back, my dudes. We're taking a look at a little bit of a controversial figure. I feel like he's gotten a little less controversial over the past year, but still, Lamar Jackson. He's been a bit of a divisive quarterback, to say the least, throughout his career. Some people think he is elite. Some people think that he is just a shitty quarterback who happens to be able to run the ball. But I guess I'm gonna give out my opinion on this. All right, I took a bunch of time. I went through a bunch of statistics on him. I am gonna be using PFF a lot in this, and now I know that I'm gonna get so much shit for using PFF. But listen. All right, I know that PFF isn't perfect. All right, I know that their grading system isn't perfect, and there's issues, and there's some things like I think like Jacoby Brissett is like the 6th ranked quarterback on the year. All right, shit can get a little wacky with PFF, but generally they are pretty good at what they do. All right, it is their job to grade players and grade teams, so they're probably better at it than any of us are. So I am going to be using their grades, but I will be backing it up with my own film analysis as well as other statistics that don't just involve PFF grades. All right, but what I mean by he's a controversial quarterback is you got the duality of Lamar Jackson. He was the 2019 MVP, had a really, really good season. He is an absolute athletic freak, probably tied with Michael Vick for the best running quarterback of all time. I know some old heads are going to be like, Michael Vick is 1,000 times better than Lamar. No, okay. They're 1A and 1B, and I don't know which one's 1A and 1B. They're both insanely good at running the football. He has a regular season record of 45-16. So the man, when it comes to the regular season, he just fucking wins games. He just wins games. However, he's been inconsistent as a passer, and he's been disappointing in the playoffs with the 55.9% completion percentage, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, 5 interceptions, and a 1-3 playoff record. So has not seen that regular season success translate into the postseason. And obviously we didn't get to see it this year because he was injured. But I guess other than that, let's hop into the good. All right, let's do some complimenting of my boy Lamar Jackson. Top strength when it comes to him, elite running ability. I don't even have to like say anything more about that. But one thing I do want to add on to that elite running ability strength is that a lot of times when it comes to these running quarterbacks, people are so concerned with injury, especially Lamar Jackson. He's a little bit of like a lanky. So PFF has him as 230 pounds. I'm calling absolute bullshit on this because Josh Allen is like 240 pounds, and Josh Allen is not only taller, but like way thicker than him. So I feel like he's a lot lankier. He's got to be closer to like 210, 215. But the thing with Lamar Jackson is that he's like so shifty that he's able to avoid getting nailed. Like there's been so many times you're like, holy shit, he's going to get his head taken off, and he's just able to like quickly jump out of the way or slide. He's so shifty that he can just avoid those huge hits and kind of avoid contact with that. So while he has been a little injured over the past 2 years, I don't think that that's going to be a huge issue going forward with him, other than, you know, those freak injuries and shit. Another strength of his shows he flashes elite arm talent. I know people are going to say, oh, he can't throw the deep ball. He's not very accurate, but he has flashes of elite arm talent. He makes a couple throws that it's like, if Patrick Mahomes makes that throw, like that is all over ESPN. Little example of his elite arm talent here. I know this looks kind of simple, right? Looks kind of like a simple throw, but he's throwing this thing into a tight window, little play action fake, boop. He's got Mark Andrews running a little like, I guess like he's going over the top and running a post or like a deep slant kind of. Lamar Jackson is working this way. He throws this thing behind his body. Usually that is a huge no-no for quarterbacks, right? Like that is usually rule 1 of playing quarterback that you learn. When you're rolling into one direction, do not throw it behind your body because you're not talented enough to throw that. However, there are a couple quarterbacks in the league that can get away with this. Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, And apparently it worked for Lamar Jackson here. This is an elite level throw. He throws it behind his body into an extremely tight window, completed for a 2nd and 6. So that's what I'm saying when I say that he's flashed elite arm talent. Now, he doesn't do it consistently. You know, he has a lot of inaccurate throws, but he has flashes of elite arm talent. He's also great at buying time in the pocket. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but he is, you know, obviously very athletic, so it's hard to tackle him, so he buys time behind the line of scrimmage. He also has elite velocity and a very, very quick release. Just watch this example here of how quick not only he releases this pass, but also how fucking fast this thing is flying. Right? He zips this thing into Mark Andrews. I want to show you a little still here. So he is just starting his throwing motion, right? I know it's only like a 12-yard pass to Mark Andrews. He is just now starting his throwing motion. And you got I think this is Hendrickson coming this way. Like, there is already a gap of like, what is that, 5 yards between those two players, and they're running at each other, and he's somehow able to fit this ball into Mark Andrews where Hendrickson has really no chance of getting to it. It shows how quick his release is and how much velocity he can have in that thing. I mean, with that quick release, having that much velocity, really, having that much velocity is really, really impressive. He's also decent at reading defenses. Now, I don't think he's asked to do much when it comes to reading defenses, but with what he's given and what he's asked to do, I think he's pretty all right at reading defenses. He's played with like the shittiest wide receiver casts over the last 5 years. I think the best receiver he's had is Marquise Brown, and Marquise Brown's very good, besides Mark Andrews, of course. But especially last year, his leading wide receiver, and that's not counting Mark Andrews because he was a tight end, his leading wide receiver was Demarcus Robinson. He hasn't had a whole lot of help when it comes to offensive talent around him. He's also a very good play-action passer. Not only does PFF grade him as a great play-action passer, but it shows up on film. All right, we got this play against the Saints. This is week 9, I believe. Little play-action pass. Nothing fancy here. I just wanted to show off kind of what this play-action does to the defense. So obviously, play-action is meant to bring the linebackers and anyone that would have any kind of run support closer to the line of scrimmage so that you can complete passes behind them and they're no longer as much of a threat in the passing game when it comes to actually covering passes. And this example is not the best example. He has way better ones. I just got tired of looking for one. But you can see, right, play fake. Both these linebackers are coming towards the line of scrimmage. So if they wanted to, they could probably hit something back here, which is usually what play action is used for. However, they're running this kind of little out route. And the reason that it works so well with Lamar Jackson is because not only do the linebackers have to worry about the running back as a running threat, but they also have to worry about Lamar Jackson as a running threat, of course. Whenever they get any kind of play that looks like it could be a run, those linebackers have to really like hone in on that run game. And that opens up a lot of stuff when it comes to play action passes. Works a little bit better for him out of shotgun as opposed to under center because it's a little harder to be a run threat as a quarterback when you're under center, but I think the point still stands. All right, he's also the 4th ranked quarterback overall by PFF. Again, I know PFF's not perfect, but he is, and that's including both passing and his rushing ability. He's the 4th ranked overall quarterback in 2022 when it comes to just overall quarterback play. We got some of the good out of the way. You know, I'm done. I'll wash my mouth of... Okay, I'm not going to say that joke. All right, I got done going down on Lamar Jackson there. It's time to insult him a little bit. We're going to go into the bad of Lamar Jackson. And I think this comes as not a surprise to anyone, but he is not a very accurate quarterback. When it comes to uncatchable pass rate, he ranks 30th out of the 32 quarterbacks, and that's with the higher number being worse. So when it comes to catchable pass rate, he ranks 30th. He has a low catchable pass rate. I think you understand. And his completion percentage hasn't really faltered that much from this because this is based off of last year's statistics by PFF, but he is throwing to open receivers slightly more than the average quarterback in the NFL is, which for a team that has such a bad or just, such an unimpressive skill position talent around Lamar Jackson, that's kind of an interesting number to see. So once again, that week 9 game, I think this is like the most glaring, obvious missed throw. But, I mean, I know he's on the move, and it's not the easiest pass. No, he's not, like, set up in the pocket. He's got a little pressure on him. But still, this guy is wide open, and he just completely misses it. He just struggles with his accuracy sometimes. He's also not a good deep ball thrower. He misses deep balls, and this is once again going to be just like an egregious example. All right, so once again, this is probably like the most egregious form of like missed deep ball you could possibly have. But he just, I mean, once again, like not the perfect example because he's got guys in his face and like, but he has his feet set properly. Like, there's no reason that he should miss this throw. He could underthrow it by 5 yards and it still would be a touchdown. And he just overthrows this one to, I don't even know who that is. That's how bad their receiving cast is. I don't know. Who is that? Kylan Wallace, is that actually a person? Another thing he's not great at is throwing a 2-ball, so a 1-ball would be like a dart, right? A 3-ball would be like throwing a deep ball where you're kind of skying it in the air. A 2-ball is right in the middle where it's kind of like you're throwing an intermediate pass and you want to get it over top of a linebacker, but you don't want to like launch it into the air. So you see Lamar here, once again, play action, does a good job of evading in the pocket, and he just puts this, I mean, this is an open receiver, right? It's an open receiver, and all he has to do is just get it over these defenders who are, almost 15 yards in front of where the receiver is. He just has to get it right over their heads and fit it right into Isaiah Likely, I believe. And he just throws it way too high. I mean, that's Deshaun Jackson, is it? I don't know. I seriously don't know this like Ravens receiving core. He tries to go to that like fastball zip pass way too often, and the amount of times watching his highlights I heard the announcer say, and Jackson zips it downfield. Like, he throws the ball hard sometimes, and I think he needs to like feather it a little bhave a lot of times where it gets batted down at the line of scrimmage because he just tries to throw a zip ball when all he needs to do is just feather it in there a little bit, put a little bit of air. You don't have to throw a fastball. It makes it a little more difficult on the receivers as well. He was ranked as the 17th best passer in the NFL by PFF this year, so a little bit below average when it comes to passing. Of course, he only played like 11 games, I believe, though. I did say before that he's very good at buying time behind the line of scrimmage. But a lot of times, he's able to buy the time, but I feel like that gets him in more trouble than it helps a lot of the times. Obviously, when he evacuates the pocket and runs downfield, he usually gets a lot of yards. But if he evacuates the pocket and then tries to throw the ball, I see this harming him more times than it actually helps them on offense. He threw a couple of interceptions like this. The example I'm going to throw right here, he kind of just chucks it up to a receiver. So you see Lamar, like I said, really good at like buying time behind the line of scrimmage, but sometimes he'll just end up throwing up for grabs. There'll be no one open, and this happens. There's way more egregious examples than just this, but there's a lot of times where he buys time, and instead of just throwing it away because no one's open, he decides to just chuck it downfield and hope that someone catches it. He also doesn't seem to be great in the quick game. I don't think he's asked to do much in the quick game, though, but he doesn't have a whole lot of anticipation when it comes to throwing to receivers before they break their routes. All right, so looking back to that Bengals game, week 5 here, they run a, I don't really know what you call this play. I guess you just call it like hitches or something. Everyone just runs a little like go 5 yards, turn around, right? Usually these have a little thing tagged on it where if the corner is like up in their face, they run goes, but it's just hitches all around. And obviously I can't see exactly what's going on up here, but it seems like everybody's open, right? It seems like everybody's open, and if he just throws it on time, then he's able to complete the pass. So everyone's about to break right now. I mean, maybe these corners are breaking on this way harder than I'm expecting them to, but it doesn't, I mean, it seems like this is open, right? If you throw it right now, you can hit all 4 of these guys. I mean, even he has hit 21 on him, but he can box out 21 pretty easily, and I'm not sure what he's looking at. It seems like he's kind of just looking at the safeties, but on these hitch concepts, you don't really have to, like, the safeties don't really pertain to the play that much. This seemed to happen a couple of times when he was running quick games when I was watching the film, is that he'd have wide open players and be looking presumably at them, because that's what it looked like he was looking at, and he just didn't throw it for whatever reason. I don't know if he just doesn't trust his receiving core on what routes they're running, or if he's just not good at throwing it with anticipation. And honestly, what I think he just needs to see receivers open instead of throwing them open, which, I mean, in this example, you're not really even throwing them open. You're just throwing it like they're open. Like, they look open. But obviously this play ends up working out for him, and he ends up hitting the guy he should have, but he throws it, makes it way more difficult than it needs to be. All right, so I guess my overall thoughts on Lamar Jackson. So first question is, should the Ravens pay him? Yes, the Ravens should pay him. I will say it will probably be somewhat of an overpay, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that Lamar Jackson is more valuable to the Ravens than he would be to any other team in the league. And that is because the Ravens are so uniquely built around Lamar Jackson with his ability to run the ball that you can't just plug and play Lamar Jackson in any system in the league. And you can't just put any other quarterback and put him in the Ravens system and expect them to succeed. So I think the Ravens get the best out of Lamar Jackson and Lamar Jackson gets the best out of the Ravens. And with that, they're probably going to be paying more than what the market value for Lamar Jackson should be. However, I think it will be worth it with that investment. Of course, when Lamar Jackson's healthy, the Ravens have a borderline elite offense with him on the field. Do I think that Lamar Jackson is an elite quarterback? I don't think so. I don't think he's an elite quarterback. I just don't think he passes that threshold as a passer. Obviously, he's the most elite of the elite when it comes to a running quarterback. And I think a lot of his passing game is predicated on the fact that he can run the ball. When it comes to those play action passes, he's able to, get the linebackers to bite harder on those play action passes because he's so good at running, and it makes receivers become more open. And overall, it seems like he's kind of a slightly below average passer who's able to utilize his ability to run to prop up his passing game even more. And also, when you're talking about elite quarterbacks, I think you need to see some sort of postseason success. When you look at what I would consider elite quarterbacks, you got guys like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. This one might actually be controversial, but Aaron Rodgers, I think he's still elite. Quarterbacks like that have all seen postseason success and has seen their game translate to the postseason. And I guess kind of the last question in this is, how long do I think Lamar can keep this up? Obviously, being a running quarterback and being what I presume would be a little skinnier than what most quarterbacks are, although PFF seems to think he's 230 pounds. With no improvement to his passing game, I think he'll be good to great at the position until he loses, until he becomes like probably 80% of what he currently is in the running game. I know his passing game can look very good at sometimes, but also I think that's propped up by the fact that he can run the ball. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I mean, if you're so good at one thing that it makes you better at other things, so who cares? But still, as he reaches the age of like 34, 35, and that running ability starts to regress, a significant amount, defenses aren't going to have to key in on that running game as much. I think it's going to make passing the ball even more difficult for him. If I'm going to put a range on this, I would say he's probably going to see at least, I would say he's probably going to be a good to great quarterback until he's around 34 years old. He's still probably going to be like a top 3 most athletic quarterback in the league when he's 34 years old. However, beyond that, I think it starts to get really dicey. So I hope he does improve in his passing game. We'll see if he does. It would be awesome to see like a Drew Brees level of, passing ability from a quarterback who can also run like a 4.2 40 or something. That would be so fun to see, as much as it would like destroy the rest of the league. Let me know if you guys like these kind of videos. It took me a lot of time to do, and I think it's a lot more informative. However, I feel like it also doesn't really bring out my personality as much as like most of my other like kind of off the whim content does. But I don't know. Let me know.